Football Show on Off the Ball.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
All right, it's Thursday's Football Show. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. Dan McDonnell in studio. We had that awkward post-COVID conversation of, have we seen each other in 18 months?
It's true, yeah. I mean, like, I think a lot of people in various workplaces who are, say, in, you know, WhatsApp groups or Zoom calls, or I've definitely been at that stage where you can't remember. You meet some people like, I've interacted with you regularly enough and haven't necessarily seen you that much. Have we actually physically been in the same room? But
I don't think so. We certainly haven't been this close.
There was some press conferences out in Abbottstown with behind masks and
you
stuff.
You forget about this time last year where we were also in a similar enough position where we were back kind of doing things.
Sort of. We were in like a... Actually, yeah, there was like the closed doors games. You know, the couple of the Ireland-Finland. You're probably at one of those games in the Aviva and those type of games, or the early ones, Ireland-Wales. Yeah, you sort of actually forget that. It's those couple of months have been written off.
Yeah, I do remember being at a press conference, all right, and being in a room with about 20 other people and going, this doesn't feel right. Yeah, and there was a couple of outdoor ones in Abbottstown as well. You're interviewing people outside on the grass because, of course, you know, this was as they were the glory days. We'll be boring people about them in years to come. We were out there working. You know, we were sort of on the front line, but not really. We were just sort of reporting on matches from like a long way away, not actually being on the front line. It was, God, we're getting nostalgic about something that happened 18 months ago. I think the low point was driving into work one Thursday night to present this show, and I was stopped by the guards in Rathmines, and they said, where are you going? And I took out my letter that said I was an essential worker, and they're like, what do you do? I was like, radio show. Yeah,
that is true. I mean, how do you even like yourself?
I don't.
In that situation.
53106 is the text number. Like, something has clearly gone wrong in my brain that after 6 years of saying 53106, I'm now convinced it's 52106. I don't know where 52106 gets you, but it may not be good. Probably charge a bucket load of money as well for it. So do not text 52106. 53106 is where it's at. There is matches on tonight in the Europa League. Leicester 1-0 up against Napoli in their game. That one is just at half time. Jose Perez scored the goal for Leicester in Group A. Rangers 1-0 down at half time against Lyon, and earlier Celtic beaten 4-3 by Real Betis. Celtic were 2-0 up in that game, scored late consolation as well, but beaten 4-3 in Spain. West Ham 2-0 winners away at Dinamo Zagreb. And then in the Europa Conference League, they should really put this on like a Friday morning or something, just even separate it and give us even
they haven't they've just merged the whole thing. There was actually, because initially we thought there might be an Irish club in it. I thought at one stage they were talking about having that on like Thursday afternoon and the Europa League Thursday night, but now it's all just mixed into one. It's like Championship and League One. You're not sure which is which.
Because I've had a great idea for competition. Like, it'll be the worst, most dull competition in the world, which I could do right now, Dan. Maybe I will do it right now.
Okay.
Which team is in the Europa League and which team is in the European Conference
There's an Irish
League.
Player scored tonight in one of the competitions. Who is that Irish player?
Oof. That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Right, now I got to look through them all.
And to prove the point, I actually had a conversation with someone in my office recently on the assumption it was someone who'd scored in the Europa League, but they've scored in the Europa Conference League. And we were actually having a bit of a chat as to who was the last Irish player, apart from the Dundalk player, to score in the Europa League. You know, so the Dundalk lads scored quite a few goals in 2020, but who would it have been? And I was sort of half. Now the answer is actually quite obvious. Well, as in, you might be thinking of, say, a Killian Sheridan type figure. Matt Doherty would have been for Wolves. And did he possibly even
One point for me on tonight's 1 hour.
It's a slightly better game than it's better than Europa or Europa Conference. You still haven't got this player yet.
Josh Cullen?
No, although I hope he hasn't scored. No, they were knocked out. Vitesse Arnhem, who Dundalk should have beaten, were knocked out Anderlecht in the next round.
All right. My game was better. My game was better. Stop. Union Berlin.
Oh, they're in the Conference League.
Very good, Dan. Zorya
from Ukraine. I think they're in the Europa League.
No, they're in the Conference League. Conference League Group C. They're in with Roma. Come on, Dan.
Roma. Who are Roma playing tonight?
Is this the? Oh, so they're playing.
Are you going to have to click on it to know the Irish player?
So they're playing Graham Carey. Yes.
Yeah.
Graham Carey on the show.
Yeah.
should have all these conversations off air. Put on air. And so many great ideas. We just came on air.
Isn't it great to see such a sense of surprise? You know, it's like
that's
didn't realise that happened. Yeah, Graham Carey, the 10th minute tonight, but I think they're losing. But
what's going on with Jack Byrne?
Jack Byrne, who is at Apoel Nicosia, but not going to be playing for them probably again, I would suggest.
And can he still get a move back?
So I would have done a story a while back on this, that I think the most likely exit strategy is a move to the MLS in 2022 in January, if that can be arranged.
But not playing then for 7-8 months?
No. I think the registration window for him playing has passed, or it will pass shortly, but he hasn't been registered. You can have, I think, 15 foreign players, and I don't think he's going to be in that now. There was talk of him trying to maybe get out before the transfer window closed in August. The 31st one, the European transfer window, but that obviously didn't happen. And I think that's because he's on a long-term deal there. And to get out, he would have had to probably do some kind of deal,
right?
So because Joe Garner, the other Mick McCarthy signing, he managed to get out, I think, but he was on a 1.5 year deal, whereas Jack Burns is 2.5, and I think it's a decent deal as well. But I mean, yeah, like I have to admit now, when he moved to Apoel, there would have been some people saying to me, Cypriot football is fairly volatile, it's fairly unpredictable. And I probably had it wrong in the sense I was like, well, they really want him. It's a good deal. The president seems to rate him. It's a good chance for him. But really, Apoel, the season they had last year, not qualifying for Europe, and it just seems like people who were the flavour of the month 6 months ago aren't anymore. So yeah, it hasn't worked out. But Charlotte, one of the coaches at Charlotte, the assistant manager, who are a new expansion team starting next year, is one of his Man City ex-coaches. So I think that's the plan. But I'm not even sure how complicated it will be to get out, but it does mean that this has basically been a wasted year, I suppose. Yeah.
Antwerp.
Oh, they were playing Ammonia Nicosia they were in the Europa League, I think, are they?
Correct.
Yeah, they were playing Ammonia Nicosia in the final round of the Europa League.
This guy is good.
When it goes to niche, lower level European competitions,
there's nobody better.
Don't start me on the coefficients. I can study that stuff. I can tell you where they're sitting.
Better competition might have been guess the country that the team in the Conference League.
I'm pretty sure we had a version of that before. Back in the at another time. I think it was with Richie one night.
Right.
Guess
no such thing as
not sure
around here.
I can't.
Sort of thing I do with my kids.
Yeah, well, your listeners, your kids.
You.
Yeah.
We've got a doubleheader in the Premier League live on Sunday, by the way. West Ham, Manchester United at 2:00. Brian Kerr will be alongside Stephen Doyle for that. And then myself and Keith Tracy will be doing Spurs against Chelsea from 4:30. John will be here on Saturday with Dan, possibly.
Yeah.
And the lads,
Damien Delaney, I believe, this Saturday.
Damien Delaney.
Yeah. Sort of a premium content this week.
Product. He's gone big time now.
Yeah.
Big time.
You remember you used to see him all the time, and now it's more like, I hope he's free this week. He is this week, as far as I know.
Just another one.
He might have got another gig actually since earlier today, but I believe he is on.
Give us the potted history of Graham Carey then.
Graham Carey is again one of these Irish players who went to Celtic as a kid, had a spell on loan with Bows briefly, so League of Ireland fans would have watched him play for a couple of months, maybe half a season. That would have been back in probably 2008, 2009, 2010 sort of territory, and then basically established himself as a pretty decent player, first with I think St Mirren, and then in the lower leagues in England. He had a couple of years with like Plymouth when they were League One, and he was sort of probably around the same time that Conor Harahan was doing very good things at that level. Graham Carey would have been too, as a sort of attacking midfielder who I'm pretty sure in one season hit double figures in goals in League One, and now that would probably put you in the Irish discussion, whereas around that time I think there was almost a semi sort of sniffy attitude towards players in League One. But he went to Sofia in 2019, and there was some chat he might have left at one point, but he's still there. They were in the group stages last season of the Europa League, and this time round they're in the Europa Conference League. But he is one that sort of, the move to Sofia was a bit random because he was on that sort of lower league ladder, and then out of nowhere this opportunity seemed to pop up, and he embraced it and he took it. But he's had like a really respectable career. But Sofia, was an unusual departure, but playing at a good level now, I suppose. But he was a winger when he was younger, A left winger when he was younger, but in recent years I think he's played more centrally and scored quite a few goals.
Good answer,
Didn't tonight.
Good
yeah.
answer.
There's your
Who
pot of
is
history.
fully aware now of Graham Carey. Must get Graham Carey on the show. Somebody book Graham Carey.
Book him. Yeah.
Do it.
Get him. He could be coming off the pitch now. You know.
Yeah. Referees in the League of Ireland. I want to talk to you about this, Dan, because all I ever see every Friday night is another manager going online bitching and moaning about referees. So I took myself along to the League of Ireland last Friday night to see what the hell it was all about.
Tala,
of course.
you didn't do the I am spiel at the gate again that you used to do
Oh, no.
before the pandemic.
No,
that's different time.
Paid for my ticket.
Paid for your ticket.
Paid for my ticket. Yeah.
Grassroots.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a grand game.
Rovers. I was working at the game. It was fine. You got to see Greg Halford play in the middle of a back three.
Greg Halford, yeah.
Bit of sort of Premier League years recognition.
That night, Greg was I giving out about Greg? Oh no, I think I said
Yes.
I'd love to hear the Greg Halford, Roy Keane stories. And Greg got back and said basically we couldn't handle him.
It was in the early hours of the morning, but I mean which has become a bit of a theme. That Greg is Waterford, no United.
Sorry,
key
Jesus,
thing.
nothing gets them angry at the texters.
Dropped. It's just Waterford FC. But Greg was doing some tweeting about the referees after the game last Friday, which we sort of have to be careful with to some degree. Probably, sorry, I've sort of interrupted you, but it's part of the latest series of angry League of Ireland managers talking about referees.
Well, so there was one contentious issue, I thought, in the entire game, which was a handball on the edge of the area. Waterford player slides out. I was right down the other end. It looked like he may have just lifted his hand slightly as he's sliding in. Referee gives a free kick, yellow card, probably wasn't a yellow card. Ball smashed in, goal, and Shamrock Rovers go on to win. For the entire game, Mark Bircham, the Waterford manager, is just going completely crazy at the referee. Everton, Anthony's giving this sarcastic applause after the free kick goes in. And the next thing I see the reaction where they're all going mad at the referee the next day. And again, it's a reflection on the standard of refereeing. And I actually didn't see anything with the referee aside from that one decision that was in any ways memorable. So if they're going to hammer them for that, I think it completely takes away from when there are actual issues.
Well,
there's nothing about that refereeing performance that deserved the criticism it got.
So the issue with the goal would have been, and again for people who weren't there or aren't familiar with the issue, as you said, Shamrock Rovers broke Waterford down with a goal from a free kick which Waterford felt shouldn't have been given, and then when when Shamrock Rovers took the free kick, Danny Mandrew, they also argued that Rory Gaffney was in an offside position when he ran across in front of the goalkeeper. So there was there was two issues around that goal, but Greg Halford would have been tweeting later that evening, and Mark Bircham afterwards was particularly triggered by what they claimed was a comment by the referee on the pitch to their players. And as Mark Bircham phrased it, he said, maybe my players are lying about what they heard, but that's 7 of them, who said this. And Halford's thing later on was with regard to a comment made by a referee to a player, alleged comment made by the referee to the player, which, without going into it, was along the lines, I suppose, of a reference to recent complaints that Waterford have made on social media about other refereeing decisions, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So there is, but if it was just one club, I think you could say, well, listen, this one club is wound up, but there is no doubt that there is an issue at the moment, and it's not so much about bad decisions, although bad decisions are at the root of it. It's around the communication of decisions, and the relationships seem to be fractured between managers and referees and how it's conducted. Like Mark Bircham's point is that you come to this country and let's just say Nathan Murphy's playing and you get a red card, but it's clearly a mistaken identity. The rules, for example, here say that there's an automatic red card suspension no matter what. It's served in the next game no matter what, that effectively
it
can't be overturned. And Bircham's record is now subsequently a violent conduct offence, or what's deemed to be a violent conduct offence, an automatic red, that can be queried, and you see ones that you expect them to be 3 games end up in a 1-game suspension, for example.
Right.
But Bircham's rant after the game last week was saying it's an automatic red card in the next game no matter what, even if it's a contested decision. He said there's only been one red card overturned in 7 years or something. I tried to get stats on this before, put some questions in, didn't necessarily get the answers on them. So his issue is more with the process. It's about managers have been sent to the stands in recent weeks for comments they've made on the sideline, and then they go into this appeal and there's a he said, she said about who said what on the sideline. So that's really at the heart of it. Bad decisions are bad decisions. They happen everywhere in every league. Yeah, it does appear there's been a high volume of them. Like every game last weekend had something, but what seems to be at the root of the frustration is the communication and the disciplinary process around protesting those decisions, and that's where it comes from. But it probably has led to a situation where some managers are probably on edge, so that if something goes against them in the game, it becomes part of this broader beef that they have. But there is.
What are the rules about referees talking back to players?
Well, you see, I think the issue around this is that generally, I think some people, you'll talk to players, we all talk to players who don't mind that stuff. They don't mind the back and forth at all. It's great if there's a bit of a rapport.
Because players say plenty to referees.
Yes, 100%. And I think, to be fair, I think most people would, I don't know, you can't speak for most people, but I think people out there listening who play at any level, if you can have a bit of a communication with the referee, that's generally a good thing, even if it's a bit of banter or a bit of slagging or whatever. But I think in this instance, there's been a high volume this year of comments on the sidelines from managers that have led to the fourth officials reporting the referees, calling them over, managers being sent off, who then contest that they didn't necessarily say what was said, and then they feel they can't.
It's tiring, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's a fatiguing one, but it's become a real talking point. Right. Like, there was a meeting recently, I think there's been discussions with various people. I think a delegation of managers recently went to the league to discuss it. That clearly the relationships have broken down. That if things were functioning normally, yes, like, managers would have a go, the refs could have a go back, and you get on with your lives. But it seems more like managers feel they have a go, they get punished and cautioned. Like we had, myself and Johnny on our podcast this week, we had Dara Doyle on, the Longford town manager, who was speaking about how he felt, in his opinion, that some fourth officials are actually just getting too involved, stopping managers from shouting at their own players, and just a bit sort of, I think overzealous was the word he would have used. To me, it seems like there should be an easy fix to this stuff. It shouldn't actually be that hard. Get them all in a room and sort it out. But it's actually become quite draining. And as you say, and Mark Bircham, I think, has become something of a spokesperson for some of the grievances and complaints that exist.
That's the highlight of my Saturday morning now. I wake up and see
who's gone off and won last night. I mean, Tim Clancy had a proper go the week before last and got a two-game ban for his interview, speaking about it, talking about, again, comments that referees made going onto the pitch before games about players. I
take it all back then.
Yeah. He had an issue around a player slipped on his way out, walking down the steps going to a dressing room or something.
That's pretty funny.
Well, yeah. Well, the ref apparently said something along the lines of save that till you get in the pitch or something, which is sort of a reference to diving in some shape or form. Like, I think, it should be that should be the type of, it's a typical, man hit by football on the groin is amusing. Someone slipping is, someone makes a quip of some description.
The guy who fell on the ice, we're still talking about him.
He's a star, exactly. Yeah. But it just seems like the rapport that should be there certainly isn't there. And refereeing debates can wear me down, but this one has become like something of a consistent talking point, and I think we'll probably hear more of it in the coming weeks and months, definitely.
Well, apologies to everybody at Waterford United and Waterford FC.
Yeah, Waterford FC in particular, the more current incarnation.
The last one. I'm starting to realise I'm obsessed with money. I was about to ask with Graham Carey, if you have good money over there, do referees, what do they get paid?
I don't know off the top of my head, but there was during the, and this is something I probably need to explore, but during, again, at the start of the pandemic, when there was that first return, there was a dispute around referees' fees and expenses, that some refs weren't happy with the terms and conditions. But I think it's reasonably good. But that would have been a part of in the old Delaney era FEI, and in the fallout from that, clubs every year would say get a ledger from the FEI, and there was a feeling that refereeing costs were quite excessive for clubs. I think there was then attempts and discussions around that. I think some referees have dropped off the radar because they felt it wasn't worth it for them in some cases anymore, which is another issue then, that some recognised referees maybe have opted to have stepped away for whatever reason. But I mean, there's money in it, there's travel expenses in it, there'll be overnights in it. There's an Irish team of officials tonight doing a game in, is it the Europa League or the Europa Conference League?
This is what we're asking.
I'm actually not sure. I think it's Conference League, because I think they're doing the Lincoln Red Imps game. I think it might be.
Nice little trip to Gibraltar. Duty free.
I think yeah. Is it? I need to double check who it is. It's one of the Robs. Rob Hennessy or Rob Harvey is doing a game tonight, and they were. Well, did not see recently that the Irish referees met headlines.
They're playing. I can't believe you don't know who Lincoln are playing.
Go on.
Pauk.
Oh yes. And is there an Irish official in that game? Is that the game?
These are so many big questions. It's got to the stage that even the lads at Live Score, who do it all, it seems don't even have the referees.
We're completely linked. There's an Irish refereeing team. I will sort this out in 2 minutes who it is. But there was a game recently where Hibernians of Malta feel that they were shafted out of the group stage football by an Irish officiating team, who are basically spoken of in Maltese football in the same way that we speak of Martin Hansen and the Swedish officials back in 2009.
Wow.
There was a big massive article on the Times of Malta about the decisions from these Irish referees in this particular game and how it went so badly wrong.
Latest scores in the Europa League and European Conference League. We're not going to go through them all, don't you worry. But Rangers now 2-0 down at home against Lyon. Rangers wouldn't allow Neil Lennon and Chris Sutton into the stadium
because they were
do
going
their
to
analysis, because there were a security concern. Which says a lot about Rangers. Leicester have just gone 2-0 up at home against Napoli. Good win for Leicester. There's Ayoze Perez and Harvey Barnes have just scored in the last couple of minutes. Both those games midway through the second half. Celtic beaten 4-3 by Real Betis. West Ham 2-0 up away at Dinamo Zagreb, and Spurs in the Europa Conference League. What's the Europa Conference League, not the European Conference League? The
Europa Conference League. It is the Irish officials are doing Lincoln Red Imps and Pauk. Rob Harvey is the
Pauk leading 2-0. This is where we are with Irish interest in European football.
This is where Graham Carey.
The referees around the place. 53106 is the text number. Don't text in and say this is the worst football show I've heard in recent times. I don't want to hear it.
We've covered way more.
You don't get this anywhere else.
We've covered way more continental topics, and it was Rob Hennessy was the referee who caused a bit of issue where the Hibernians lodged an official protest with UEFA because their defeat to Riga of Latvia. It was a massive sendings off, all sorts of stuff going on. Should get Rob Hennessy in to discuss his experience. Get him on with Graham Carey as part of some kind of European 2021
Irish
panel.
Lads who, I was going to say done well out.
Sort of did okay.
Out in the continent.
Irishmen who've made the headlines in Europe this year. That's what we'll do.
Text in. Declan Rice, trigger warning, lads. The Rice lad has scored for West Ham tonight, says Pat. We're over that now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're over it.
We're on to who are we on now? Bamford actually handled it very well.
We call that.
Yeah.
We call that back in the glory days when we were together on Saturday afternoons. Johnny Ward went to a Leeds match, listened in on a Patrick Bamford conversation.
He unprofessionally, after a game at Reading, which told us a story, as with every Johnny Ward anecdote, if he hasn't told it once, he's told it 24 times. Every time Patrick Bamford comes up, he will describe his performance based on the one time you saw him play against Reading on a Tuesday night. He earwigged the conversation where Bamford was asked by someone, would he play for Ireland, and he gave a sort of non-committal
off
answer.
The record. Off the record, but Johnny just repeated it straight on air. But we made the point that, because Johnny's point at the time, this is only about 2 years ago, maybe less, that Bamford is not a hope in hell of ever playing for England. And I think we made the point of, if he scores 10 goals in the Premier League, he's in that England squad.
Of course.
And lo and behold,
at
there
28
he is.
now, he's in. And he handled it very well. He could have taken the Irish call, but he followed his heart. I don't think anyone has a problem with it. Yeah.
By the beard of Zeus, is that the same Dan McDonnell in studio I see? He's looking trim. Is he still being papped on his daily runs? That's shame. What's this?
There's no daily runs. I was spotted running through a park once. By a listener, Ellenfield Park in the north side of Dublin, which, there's a story about someone out running. It sort of creates the illusion that that's something they might do on a regular basis.
You just got lucky.
Does it a couple of times a week.
Perfect time.
It just so happened it was like a sort of a bi-monthly run through the park, and I was spotted at that stage. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that when I go for my runs now, I do it wearing my whoop.
Yes, and you actually even were speaking about this off air as well.
I was.
Not just on air for the sake of that you need to do it.
Exactly. So now it tells me how much sleep I should have. My phone buzzes at around 10 o'clock saying you need to go to bed between 11 and 11:30 to get optimum
Maximum sleep.
Maximum recovery. The problem is then I wake up in the morning and it says, you are now fully recovered. You are ready to go. Whatever you want to do, full peak Murphy fitness. Now you can go and do it. And I'm like, but I went for a run yesterday.
Yeah. It's sleep inducing. You know?
Champions League. So first week we spoke earlier on with John Giles. Well worth listening. His thoughts on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the Solskjaer Ronaldo dynamic. Last night was great. Liverpool match was brilliant to watch. Really exciting. They were just exceptional for 42 minutes, and then somehow went behind at half time, but managed to turn it round once again. You were watching Paris Saint-Germain?
I ended up switching. Do you know the way, like the BT Gold show that exists?
Great.
It's brilliant, but in a way it's brilliant, but in another way you end up seeing all the goals but seeing nothing of the games. It's a bit like the whole red zone concept in NFL, that like there was good games going on, but you didn't really watch any of them closely. And that was sort of first half. There was so many goals with the Man City game and so on. But yeah, I just decided to watch the Club Brugge PSG sort of last half an hour or so, and it was sort of brilliant, but not necessarily like the high quality fare, just like enjoyable in the sense of how much of a buzz the home fans were getting. Like the Anfield atmosphere looked amazing, but this atmosphere arguably almost looked better. But it was almost an old FA Cup tie feel, that they were really, really happy to be drawing against PSG. And it's like a window to the world of...
Should they not be?
Well, no, of course they should be. But like PSG now are like in some ways they're like the heels, you know, in the sort of wrestling world, that just... Now it's a case of Messi has put an even more of a target on their head, and there was this sort of frenzied atmosphere in the last 10-15 minutes where like every tackle was almost being cheered, but then they really could have scored on the break and beaten them in the end. Like Brugge in the last 5-10 minutes, like PSG were sort of like Brugge had a very good shape, they were quite hard to play through, and PSG were almost looking for individual bits of magic to pull them out of it, but it was all in front of Brugge. They were absolutely fine. I think PSG got a corner with a couple of minutes to go. I think it was like they got 2 corners in the entire game, which can be a reflection sometimes of, you generally expect a dominant team that's not getting the result you would expect to be hammering the door down and forcing saves and frantic clearances and the ball being knocked behind, and it wasn't the case at all, you know. And it was actually a really sort of focused display from them. And it was just really enjoyable. It wasn't like your typical... It's what the Champions League group stage still has to offer. As much as we know eventually the strongest will survive and be left standing, there were these little moments you're thinking, yeah, this is great that like the fans of this club are having their sort of Champions League moment. You know, tight, packed ground, really intense atmosphere. PSG struggled.
And those clubs, and again, like it's a reflection, but they have such a good business model.
Yeah.
In terms of what they're trying to do, and I would have found commentating on those sort of games over the last few years in the Champions League and the Europa League, like it's a certain type of player they're bringing in year after year, really fast young attacking players who then they sell for 5-10 million, and they have another one ready to come through the next year. And was it 2 years ago they sold 2 players to Aston Villa for about 40 million quid between the 2 of them, and like that probably shouldn't be the model for a club Brugge. Are we calling them Brugge?
They call them Brugge. Yeah, Brugge.
Of their history, but it is, and it's a example to obviously clubs here of what you can do and get the value for your players. But obviously they're getting them through their academy a whole lot easier.
Look at Sheriff, which is another extreme version of it. But I mean, you know, Sheriff Tiraspol, who like knocked out by Dundalk last September on penalties, but would basically just they changed their entire squad over the winter, with the exception of maybe 3-4 players, brought in all sorts of sort of players from around the world, and now they're winning Champions League group stage games, which is outrageous.
I watched probably 2 10-minute spells of the Paris Saint-Germain game, and both times Messi was just stuck out on the right hand side, not involved in the game at all. They couldn't manage to get him the ball at any stage. He wasn't dropping in deep or anything to get himself more involved. It was just a strange system. And I saw Miguel Delaney tweeting about, you know, Pochettino's style is press, and he has a front 3 who have no interest in pressing. And how do they win the ball back now far enough up the pitch that they're having those turnovers where Messi, Neymar, Mbappe can do massive damage, that they're picking the ball up, they're playing it around in defence. Like Ander Herrera's having 120 touches, which is not what you want. So Pochettino's got to have a job in his hands to figure that out. You got to trust that with that talent they will eventually, and maybe it'll suit them better playing the better teams.
I think there's something in that. I think it was definitely one of those games that you're left with that sense that yes, when they're against a team that's probably taking more chances against them, it'll leave them a bit more space. But yeah, no, Messi, yeah, you sort of at times just waiting for him to get involved, and there's a couple of moments towards the end he gets the ball in tight enough situations, but it's just moved the ball on. They passed it to someone else, they were happy to have the ball, and then just went round and it started again.
Paris Saint-Germain now more likeable because Messi signed for them.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think there's always a warmth towards Messi that will always exist, but it's not like does it make you more inclined to watch them? But I don't know. Could you take great joy if they went and won the competition? Like, you want them to go far now because there's great theatre in it. There's a great storyline in the whole thing. And like with the front three they have coming to play against, say, coming to Anfield or something for like a really high stakes knockout game, that'd be brilliant. But I don't know. It's very hard to think. I want them to get over the line. They finally reached the promised land after all the spending.
That's how they do it as well. If they go on to play some of the best attacking football we've ever seen, like there'd be an excitement in that. Yeah,
true. I suppose from the Messi thing, I suppose the one question mark, well, is successes at Barcelona was with a great team. If he could win it with someone else, I mean, I see that point, but really, I don't know. But as we've said before, but look, where is the romance in the Champions League really? Like it is in some of these group stage games where these teams have their moments to a point. But as it goes on, you enjoy the football. But I don't know, is there a particular story you can get behind? You can get invested in Pep's search for the trophy with Man City to a point. You're not exactly in tears.
Pep and the fans have had a little bit of a clash today.
But they're not selling tickets.
No, I was actually having a look earlier on. I was thinking, Manchester City.
This is where you can bring your kids
exactly, and they get to see some of the best players in the world, and they're delighted with themselves. Because I had a look for this weekend against Southampton, and you can get any amount of tickets for this weekend. Pep Guardiola was making the point that the players are tired because of all the matches, and when they come to the Etihad, they want everybody behind them, and the supporters told them, ironically, stick to the football, Pep.
And what's the City reasoning? What's the
tickets are expensive?
Too expensive, they reckon.
That the tickets are too expensive. That there's so many matches that it is still a club. In a way, I always look at City and the empty seats and think, in a way, it's a good thing that City have probably maintained a huge amount of its original base, and that base only has a limit. So that's why you can build a 48,000 seater stadium, but. It's particularly with travel not happening. I would imagine Manchester City, there's a huge amount of people who are tourists who want to see these players, but their actual base support, I imagine a lot of them can't afford to keep up now with what Manchester City are trying to charge for matches like this. So,
yeah, you'd be more inclined, I suppose. Like, yeah, it is. When you go back to your base, I mean, people do at all levels in any sport here or whatever. People pick and choose their games to a point when you ask too much of them. But it is sort of crazy when you think about it. That in some places the tickets are hard to get, as people know here who try and get tickets, and they need to like swap season tickets and all this stuff. And you can go and watch the best team in the Premier League basically until proven otherwise. With a click of a button. Brondby. Oh,
last one, Dan.
Brondby.
Make or break. You've had a good night.
I'm gonna go Conference League.
Oh, Dad, it was so close. Brondby are clearly Europa League quality.
I looked today. They're rated lower than Dundalk in the UEFA ranking chart. I was looking at teams Dundalk are ranked higher than who are still in the competition this year.
Well, they're on their way to a memorable scoreless draw at home against Sparta Prague. Napoli have pulled a goal back against Leicester 2-1 in that one. There's around 10 minutes left, and Lyon 2-0 up away at Rangers. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to be talking about the Republic of Ireland amputee team. They're taking part in the European Championship. It's on over in Poland at the moment. They're in the quarterfinals. They're playing one of the favourites, Turkey, tomorrow, and we're going to talk with their manager Chris McGilligan next.
Football on Off the Ball.